Thank you, Mr. President. I had three pieces of literature passed out on your desk. One is just a reproduction of a op-ed that was in the AJC that I think gives a lot of good reasoning of concern with this piece of legislation. I'd ask you that you read that op-ed. Another piece that I passed out was a letter, and this letter was signed by about 220 different entities. But the main things you need to look at, some of these are just individual businesses, but you've got the Georgia Agribusiness Council, the Georgia Agriculture Commodity Commission for Cotton, Georgia Blueberry Growers Association, Georgia Farm Bureau, Georgia Fruit and Vegetable Growers Association, Georgia Green Industry Association, Georgia Horticulture, Georgia Peanut Commission, Georgia Pork Producers Association, Georgia Tobacco Growers Association, Georgia Urban Ag Council, Golf Clubs of Georgia, National Peanut Buying Points Association, National Watermelon Association. Now, these are organizations of many hundreds of agribusiness people and farmers growing products. This bill has got the concerns of many people in the state of Georgia in all aspects of business, whether it's a hospitality business, agriculture, tourism. This bill should have a fiscal note with it. The bill itself may not have a cost directly related to the state, but this bill has a hidden cost to the economy of the state of Georgia of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, I can't stand here and tell you exactly what it is. You've seen all the printings where people say that if the illegal immigrants are costing us, what, $1.5 billion annually? I hadn't seen where that was substantiated either by facts. It's just somebody printed it and everybody else agreed with it. Under No Child Left Behind, if a child shows up in K through 12, we have to educate them. Now, they talk about how much added cost we've got with education. This bill's not going to slow that down. Our health care cost. The Hill-Burton Act says if somebody walks into an emergency room of a nonprofit hospital, they have to treat them. So we have indigent care costs to somebody that walks in there. A lot of those may fall into this category. But we have that cost. This is not going to stop that. What we need is the federal government to secure our borders, to take the responsibilities that they have, to create a pathway for workers in the world to come to this country when we need workers. We don't need workers all the time. But in the agriculture, when a tomato's ready to be picked, you got to have a worker willing to pick that tomato. When Vidalia onions are ready to be harvested, you've got to have workers to go out in that field, bend their backs, pick up those onions, and cut the tops out and put them in a sack. You can't wait. When peaches get ready to be picked, and we all love peaches, they can't sit on that tree and wait for some workers to come in here to pick them. You got to have them lined up and know they're going to be there, or you lose your crop. Sweet corn, when sweet corn gets ready and that mule train gets out there and there's 26 people on that mule train breaking that sweet corn off of that stalk, and that's in the heat of the summer, no wind blowing because you're down in those stalks of corn, you've got to have those workers to do those jobs. That word illegal, it bothers me. And I really wish that we could click our fingers and make that go away. But we can't. They're here. Now, I've offered two amendments. One is an amendment to an amendment. Amendment number 4, I think actually does some real good. It puts a day certain to when the count is of how many employees you have that you fall into the requirements of the E-Verify. But it raises that number from what the original bill is, from less than 5 to less than 10. And I amend that by just changing that 10 to 25. We almost passed that 27 to 27 when we had the other bill in here to that 25. And I hope that you'll look real favorable on the Amendment 4A to Amendment 4. Amendment 3 that I offer, I just don't like that E-Verify system. And the senator from the 30th, he talked about your I-9 form requirements. You know, we abide by that law. And yeah, that law does go further. And we have established this internet verification system that you can do it. But if this bill passes, there's not a can to it. You're going to, every business, and it depends on where that threshold is of who's required to do it and who's not required to do it. And I wish that, you know, we could address everybody's needs. But when we look at that E-Verify system requirement, if y'all will vote for Amendment 3, we won't even have to vote on Amendment 4 or 4A, because Amendment 3 takes the whole section of E-Verify out of the bill. I ask for y'all to really look seriously at what we're doing here, the problems that it's going to create, and let's work with our federal government and our U.S. congressmen and U.S. House members for them to take the responsibility that's theirs and to address this issue. If we do it by states, and everybody jumped out after Arizona got all the good publicity last year being so strong on anti-illegal immigrants, all of a sudden those things are falling apart now as we get into it and see what the effects are. The senator from the 36 talked about the lost conventions and revenues that are generated by the hospitality industry and tourism in Arizona. And they've actually had 4 bills this year that would have strengthened their immigration law and made changes to it, and all 4 lost. They didn't pass anymore. Several states have gone back and undone some of the things they did. Now, I know that everybody's got a lot of passion on this issue. It kind of appears as though every time I've been to this well this year that there's passion on one side or the other. So I just ask you to really look at what we're doing here and think about the consequences that we're going to have from this legislation. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.